Yeah, so Davis got me into Dungeons and Dragons back in the late 70s, I guess, 77, and comic books and Heavy Metal magazine and Epic magazine
and ruined your life.
Yeah. So you went Conan, I went Edgar Rice
Yes,
Burroughs.
you went Burroughs, I went Howard.
I was a Burroughs guy. So Davis is the world of Isaiah. I'm Steven Chenault. I'm the CEO of Troll Lord Games. I've worked a lot on Castles and Crusades, but generally speaking, I guess the Adventurer's Backpack is my first big foray into mechanics, creating the classes and whatnot, most of them. But mostly I write like flavor text, and my favorite thing is the tyranny of rules that I wrote in the Player's Handbook is kind of our gaming philosophy. Don't let mechanics and rules kind of govern what you're doing. So that's what I do. Now, Jason Vey, he is the creator, owner, and writer of Amazing Adventures, and has become the workhorse of our RPG side of things. He does the 5th edition conversions. You're in charge of all of that. What else are you working on? You've got
a mound of
712.
Stuff. We're working on a new expansion for Aired that's going to bring the Tainted Lands back into a big campaign setting. We're working on a Swashbuckling Adventures source book for CNC that's going to be dual branded with Amazing Adventures.
Jason has a long list of stuff that he wants to work on, and that's on my computer, but it constantly gets sidetracked when, Jason, I need this done. Yeah. And I know because...
There's another humble bundle. Convert 25 adventure modules to 5th edition.
Yeah. That's kind of how that plays out.
And then I'm like,
them by Tuesday.
And then I'm like, I'm just jazzed to be on the show, man.
So this is Tim Burns over here, and we brought Tim on 2008 or 10
I
or...
think it said 10 years ago on my
Holy
LinkedIn thing. I know.
Christmas.
I know.
I thought it was last week.
Yeah.
It just feels like it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We don't really get into titles at
it's all
Troll Lord Games,
conflated.
but Tim is really our communications director. He handles everything on the webs, from the websites to all the communications via email to Twitters to Facebook, the Twitch account. He's heading up all the Twitch stuff now. So all of that kind of stuff that you see on the internet, the storefronts are all Tim's. He kind of runs all that. That's somewhere behind all of that is Tim doing something, whatever it is that you do.
Still don't know what it is.
that makes it happen. Yeah. And of course, Matt Golden, co-founded the company way back when, and creator with Davis Castles and Crusades. And Mac has never actually, he left the company in 03, 02, something like that. He had other things that he was doing, but he never really left the company. Mac and I...
quote unquote left the company.
Yeah. Mac and I started gaming together in 85 or something like...
84.
Todd's got it down, 84. Yeah. So, and because Mac and I think so very much alike in the way we game and the way we kind of perceive mechanics a little bit, you might be a little more mechanically driven than me, not much though. Yeah. Yes. So generally, if I'm writing something, particularly if it has anything to do with mechanics, Adventurer's Backpack, I shunt it to Mac. Hey, and he'll be doing his whatever work he does wherever he is. Crap, I got to take care of Steve's crap now, and he always gives me great feedback on that. So he's never really left the company. So I think what we kind of wanted to dive into is a little bit of history of TLG, where we started, because the focus of this panel really was where publishing has come, where it's come from, and where it's going. So not just Troll Lord Games, and it's nice that everybody's here, because we get kind of a unique perspective. When we founded the company, Mac and Todd and I were just grunting it in the shop. I mean, our original books that we did, we sent to the printer on a CD-ROM in PageMaker. We didn't have any way to convert it to PDF, so they had to render all of that stuff up there. And I remember we had to do 4 books because we got discounts on the cover sheets or something.
Well, we were going to do 3 books, but the printer said, hey, if you do 4, it's actually going to cost you like slightly more. You might as well just do 4.
Right.
And
yeah, because
wait, no, because yeah,
that's how we got aired.
Yeah, no, I remember, but y'all started before that, as I discovered, with your submissions to TSR.
Oh yeah.
So in the publishing site, even earlier, you have more, because you had to submit a manuscript.
Oh yeah, so
a typed manuscript.
Yeah, I typed the Mortality of Green out. It might have been a word processor, but I don't think it was. And you edited, because I've actually got somewhere your original back from 1996. Yeah, a long time. There's Mac's notes.
That was your second one, though.
The first one I never sent in, but yeah, you're right. It was that dungeon something with. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I found it in a folder up at the farm.
Yeah, that stuff's It's everywhere, but
Yeah.
it's somewhere. Yeah, so the first one was typed out in manuscript format, and I sent it in it because I might have been in the Army. No, I was
before.
I was in Fayetteville. And I just mailed it to Mac, and he edited it and mailed it back to me. And I put it in TSR's format and sent it to TSR. Well, yeah, it'd be TSR in those days, in 96, yeah. And I got some nice commentary from Roger Moore of, how to fix it and why they didn't publish it and all this other stuff. But so it started, I guess, even before.
Yeah. So at that point, and what you would submit a manuscript, and then they would have to put it in, because didn't they do like the little thing? Block print?
No, I don't know how they did
I
in
don't know
those
how they
days.
did,
But when we started, they were still using offset printers. So
Yeah.
Print and Litho out of Canada actually is our first printer. Was up in was it Toronto?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a fantastic printing company. We used printing as long as we could, but it was all offset, which means, and you've seen them in the movies, these gigantic printing machines with the sheets of, the newspaper type thing, and that's why the 4 books were necessary, because they've got a giant sheet of paper. If we do 3, then they're going to have to cut something off, and so it's just easier to do that way. Which led, when Mac said, "Hey, we got to do a 4th book," none of us had anything going except the world of Aird, which is a world we've been playing in for forever and a day, kind of morphed from Greyhawk into Aird as we gamed together over the years. So I sat down and hammered that out and sent it in. I guess we got another cover from Jason, another piece of art, because it looks very different. That you can almost tell it. The first 3 covers are these beautiful paintings, of action. I think there's a wolf on Vakund and 4 or 5 NPC monsters on.
Bakun. That's the other one that I couldn't remember.
There you go. But on the what's it called? After Winter Dark's fantasy. What is it called?
I think it's just
Winter's Dark.
After Winter's Dark, a
yeah.
fantasy something, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of got this like weird blue.
Because we had to throw that together in like one day.
Yeah, it was so fast. Mac found a dragon that Jason Walton had drawn that's kind of eating its own tail, which really doesn't have anything to do with the world of Aird. That would be more Inzea than Aird.
It's just a neat picture.
Yeah, and he put it on this strange. You did it in Photoshop. You made this. I mean, it looks cool, but you can tell it's very.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. You did that?
Yeah, Mac did all the original.
Oh, I didn't know you did.
I did all the layout.
Yeah. It was very interesting in the early days, because when Mac pitched the idea, of course, all of his software is kind of new. Computers, personal computers were 7 years out, 8 years out, something like that. We're 3.1 Windows probably. We got PageMaker and some old thing of Photoshop. And I don't know about you, Mac, but I had no idea. It took me forever to figure PageMaker out, to actually lay that stuff out. But yeah, so Mac dove in and did all of that. So we went from, what's kind of nice about TLG, we went from offset printing when we started in 99, 2000, to today's market. And Tim and I, all of the printers that we use, even the big ones, because we do large print runs of our hardback books, they don't use offset anymore. They all use digital printing. So we've gone from that. And then even more so, we've gone into the digital. The lion's share of Tim's work is moving digital files, OBS or on our own site or any of that. Does anyone have anything to throw in? I'm kind of hogging the panel here.
You're doing good.
just keep
on going.
Keep on going.
You gotta get about 10 years later for
And
me
before
I come
before
in.
you dive
So,
in.
yeah.
Well, it'll fast forward a little bit. So the early days are kind of chaotic as we learn this software. I do remember PageMaker there's this command in PageMaker that when you want your text to flow from column to column to column to next page, all you actually have to do is you highlight the column, and it'll highlight the column, and there's a little plus sign appears at the bottom, and you tap it, and you go to the next column and tap it, and it'll drop your text. If you hold the shift button down, it'll drop it through the whole book. It took me almost 2 days to figure that out. I had no manuals. There was no internet manuals to download. I can remember being so angry, so angry that I could not figure this tiny little thing out. Of course, once I did, it made everything so much easier. I don't know if you struggled with Photoshop with that, but you remember? Yeah, so the learning curve for us.
Yeah, and we all had, and I don't know about you guys, we all had to learn all those programs. Because we're all hitting Photoshop and InDesign, because I remember I was on InDesign for a long time, and that's completely.
Well, now InDesign's after, you're talking PageMaker. InDesign's
PageMaker, right? Yeah, PageMaker, because we all had to learn it, and that's completely antithetical to my entire mindset, background, and desire in life, you know. So sitting in, yes.
You're talking history major, anthropology major, history major. I'm not sure where
English writing, religious studies, and library and information science.
English and psychology. So there's no design.
Yeah,
no
no,
layout,
there's
no
nothing.
graphic,
There's
anything
nothing
over here.
And computers. I mean, the last time I had typed before going back to for TLG was with that old typewriter in college in 1980. I think the last paper I wrote then was 1989. And I had a typewriter. I didn't have it. I refused to get a word processor. I just used the typewriter. I wouldn't do it, you know? Heck, I didn't even have a phone until like 6 years ago.
Davis was on the road. He was a working anthropologist.
it.
When we started TLG, Mac and I were in Little Rock starting our families, but Davis was a working anthropologist. So when we could get a hold of Davis, because he would stay in hotels and he would sometimes call, sometimes we couldn't get through to him.
Yeah.
We wouldn't hear from him a couple of weeks. We'd
That
give him.
hasn't changed.
Nothing's really changed there. But so we would give him quick, this is what we need, and then we'd hear from him maybe a couple weeks later. And that's actually how he did the World of Arid map. I mean, how you drew that in hotels, right?
Yeah, I drew it in hotels because I was working in Colorado at the time. And when you needed it done, I recall this because anyway, that was whatever. I ended up in California, and I didn't have a computer, you know, and you needed it.
Yeah, we were at print time because the maps we didn't get printed we did those locally. Yeah.
Yeah, so I stopped in Pacific Grove, I think it was Pacific Grove, California, and found a little computer boutique, you know, because everyone didn't have computers at that point. So there were, I guess maybe they're still around, but you could go in and you could rent a computer by the hour, and then you could rent your programs or whatever. So I had to sit there and rent this computer. Well, at the time I was actually on vacation with my wife.
Oh, that's right.
And I spent 12
She never
hours
did
a
like
day.
me very much.
Yeah. I was on our vacation I think it was a 1 week vacation. I was spending about 12 hours a day of vacation time in that.
But now you hand drew it at first, right?
Yeah, but
And then
I
into
hand
Photoshop.
drew it on the road while I was
Okay,
working.
all right.
And then because you couldn't get a hold of me. And then suddenly you get a hold of me. It's like, we need this done. I was like, okay. Because I was going on vacation. So I actually contacted people. And then
you colored it in Photoshop.
Yeah, then I
once
colored in Photoshop, but I had no idea how to use Photoshop. So the lady at the thing had to teach me how to use Photoshop. So
And if,
Yeah, I don't know.
you've seen the original map, it's one of
it was one of those interesting things.
It's one of my favorite things we've ever done because he hand drew it, so it's got that, you know, the early mortality of greens. You hand drew the interior maps, and I don't mean to say that the artists that we're using now don't, but Davis and Mac aren't artists by trade. So, like in the maps that Mac drew, every tree in the dark is drawn. I mean, it's crazy.
They were every little tree was hand drawn. And then I didn't do it right because I bought this big, huge sheet of paper to draw the map on, and they didn't have a scanner.
Right.
So we had to scan it in pieces and then take the pieces and put it in Photoshop and then combine the pieces so it would look seamless. So it was just that process. I was like, okay, this is it was a living hell for me. But it was fun. But it was at the end of the day.
It was some severe learning curves. And in the midst of all this, so we start publishing. We presented at Gen Con 2000. We had 4 adventure modules or 3 adventure modules in the world setting in the map. I got a bunch of dice that we were handing away, and we got picked up kind of, I don't know if you had planned that was going to happen, but we got picked up by distribution. I know Mac was planning on getting us into distribution, but we got picked up at Gen Con, and orders were put in. And we knew then we could fulfill those orders, but more were coming, and we knew almost immediately we were going to have to make new product. But we had no real schedule, I don't think. I mean, had you envisioned?
Well, no, because we didn't think of it progressed.
Do we have a schedule though?
We still don't really have a schedule.
Yeah. We have a
I think we
whiteboard.
progressed that quickly.
Right, and it did. I mean, it was very, very fast. And then, so then we're scrambling to put a schedule together, still learning the software. And while this is happening, Mac had dropped off those 4 books with Gary Gygax at his booth. And he and I had this strange conversation. I guess you called me, we were talking, and he mentioned, I didn't know he had done that, and he mentioned it to me, so I sent Gary an email to see if he had gotten the books, and Gary responded within like an hour. And it's very nice. I read your books, really enjoyed it, da-da-da-da. So I called Mac, and we had that rather bizarre conversation. You remember? You know, because he enjoyed the books, and Mac's like, well, why don't you contact him and see if you can publish them? And I was like, it's Gary Gygax. We can't even master InDesign and Photoshop. What are you talking about publishing Gary Gygax? And he finally cajoled me into doing it. And I sent him an email, and he shot an email back very, very quickly. Scheduled a phone conversation Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock, Chris Clark, me. And suddenly we found, so within a month or two of Gen Con, we had signed Gary Gygax. And suddenly now not only do we have to come up with a schedule but for ourselves, but we got to now publish Gary Gygax. And his stuff began to come over immediately, and this is when the software really began to change, because Todd joins the company at that point. And Todd's job was, Gary sent so many manuscripts and they were so large so fast that Todd had to learn a lot of computer skills.
You have to understand about the way Steve does stuff. And Steve is very popular with the sink or swim method. At that point, I had very, very little computer experience, and I remember we were talking.
And be aware, we
were talking with his wife, who I also worked for, and she said, "Todd doesn't know anything about computer." He goes, "Don't worry, he'll learn." And that was pretty much the base of it. You know,
I forgot I did just dump all on that on your desk and said, "All right, you got to figure this out."
Yeah.
Oh, and this is an important thing about that too. At this transition point, we realized as well that each individual had to become expert in one particular thing. One person couldn't handle it all. It had to start being divvied up really, really quickly, because it's really just too much to do. Because there's a lot more into it than just learning programs.
Yeah.
There's arranging there's prices of paper, ordering the paper, getting the paper cut, getting the right type.
That's later, but just running the business becomes
right. But that's where it's rolling, okay?
Right.
Because this is at the point where we're realizing we got Gary, we got these huge publishing schedules. We can't individually do this. It had to start getting divvied up really, really quickly.
Yeah, and at this juncture, as Todd kind of takes over the Gygax and stuff, Mac is running the company, and then I'm trying to do everything I can to get the products finished and into the printers and take care of all of that.
I'm trying to catch up on sleep the whole time.
So we shift out of that, and this is where the market begins to change, because and it's kind of unique in the way we looked at it, because the first books we did with Gary and the first books we did with ourselves are just traditional print. It's the offset printers, the Canning Crews that way, the World Builders that way, Codex Avares that way. But sometime around 2004 and 2005, by this time we've really got our sea legs. We know what we're doing. We're making books. But then the market begins to shift. POD starts to enter into things. There's print on demand popping up all over the place.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So suddenly we can discover, and we learned quickly that, because we have to do con books, that a lot of these things were PODing. And Davis had the idea, well, if we're going to do POD anyways, and you pay so much more, because you want to always print in volume because you get discounts, but you don't want to print in volume for a special release because you won't get the discounts. So Davis had the idea to expand into a print shop. So in 2005, we started building a print shop, and we have that up and running we have our own POD shop by 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And at this point, somewhere in this juncture, you're about to start joining us, but...
It was around 2006 when Break Daddy hooked me up with you guys.
Yeah, and then from this, so we've gone from offset to POD. We're still using offset. Our offset printers are shifting into digital. But the people who own, it's James Mathis, owned RPG Now. He pitches to me, look, guy, you got to, because we've been in it for 5 years now, you got to go digital. You got to start selling PDFs. And I'm like, nobody's going to buy a PDF. This is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not doing that. That's just nuts. And so that was
Steve. So Steve is famous for taking things that are up and coming and going, nobody's going to buy into it. He did it with Kickstarter too. He was like, I hate Kickstarter. It's ridiculous. We will never do Kickstarter.
He did it with Amazon as well. It's like, no one's going to buy anything off the internet. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, that was a big drag on it. Funny, the weird thing about all of that stuff, Mac, when he was working for the company, so he leaves in like 2002, but when he's managing the company, he sets up this little account with this tiny company. He said, this might be worthwhile. We'll set it up, see if we can sell stuff, called PayPal. And so we got this PayPal account in like 2001 or some craziness. And then he set up with, Amazon had launched this tiny program called Advantage, and he set us up with Advantage. To this day, obviously PayPal is PayPal, and it's a pillar of everything that we do. Our PayPal account was so old that when we built the Equid store, if you remember.
Yeah, we had to call them.
We had to call them. They couldn't fix it because they had no software for it. They said, well, when did you set this up? And we were like, I don't know. Call Mac. I don't know. This is decades ago. And the Advantage program is the same way. Amazon, I don't know if they do it anymore, but they order every Monday. We get a big order from it, and this has been going on for 20 years. We get an order sheet from Amazon. We ship it in, and they cut us a check at the end of the month. So, and it was just because Mac saw something. Mac was very innovative in the beginning. He was much you say Mac actually was watching what was coming. He read articles
Yeah.
and saw that things were
What
happening.
was funny was when I first up Amazon, I didn't tell Steve. Actually, I just forgot to tell him I set it up. And Steve was sitting there and he called me and goes, "Hey, I got these orders in from Amazon. What is this?"
I had no idea.
I was like, I set that up. You need to ship them some stuff.
Yeah. So all of these things just kind of blossom, you know, and the PayPal, of course, and the PayPal, the reason I didn't think anyone would buy in 01, 02, 03, and 04, I don't know if you guys remember it, but we were all kind of nervous about putting our credit cards.
Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah.
internet.
Everyone's nervous about putting personal information on the
Yeah,
internet.
we're like, that's just
Not like
crazy.
we are today at all.
Yeah, I know, yeah, no.
Yeah, now it's just like, you just, no one gives a crap.
There's a thing out there. People talk about how, like, in 1996, it was never meet a stranger on the internet and never get in a car with a stranger.
Oh, right.
2019, it's literally call a stranger on the internet to drive you somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's true. So yeah, I was very reluctant to do this whole no one's going to order this stuff online, and of course that was wrong.
Actually, I just thought of something when you were talking about the PDFs. We did have PDFs. You probably forgot because Steve didn't want me to do this in the beginning, but he basically got frustrated with me. He said, "Just do it if you want to do it." We actually put our books on CD-ROMs.
Oh,
Yep,
I
remember
forgot.
that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. We did. Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, and they were actually interactive a little
We
bit.
handed the first
Yeah.
ones, and then the final one, Melody of Kings, we had professionally done.
Okay, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's right. Because the early ones, if you ever find any of them, the early CD-ROMs it was the adventures, are in little slip sleeves, little paper slip sleeves with a sticker on the top. And Mac and I, each one of those, putting those on there. But Melody of Kings is done because it's in a box, the plastic.
Yeah.
It's a naturally.
Yeah.
Do we have any of those ones?
I got a few there.
Yeah, I got a few.
I got artifacts stuck here and there. So so then this, James Mathis pitches me this RPG now. I won't do it. I'm not going to do it. No one's going to read these PDFs. If we put it out there, they're going to be selling them all, or, sending them all on the internet. Everything's going to be out there. By the next year, some of the other, I say competitors, but we're kind of a small group, so we're all pretty good friends. Joe Goodman, Bill Webb, we're all kind of tight. And I think Joe had already done it. And I'm seeing that people are making money off of these PDFs. Like, crap. So then we get into the PDF side of things. And that starts to build over time as we, and then I guess Kickstarter's coming. But about that time, Jason joins us. We released Castles and Crusades in 04, 05, something like that. The D20 market had collapsed. And this is where Mac and Todd had kind of gone on at this point, but this is where the market conditions kind of, I began to learn how the market works, that the RPG market works. The market collapsed in 05. We came out with CNC about that time. It blew up. It did really, really well. We brought Jason on board because
I had been a fan of the company right from the time CNC came out. I bought it right away because I was really into the old school. And really, I think what a lot of people forget and gloss over, and we don't really advertise it much because we like to be more than that, but Troller Games was really the company that kind of started the old school renaissance. Like the retro clone games grew out of Castles and Crusades. Osric, which was the first big one, was kind of a response to CNC. Like, these guys were like, CNC is cool, but let's do AD&D again. So, but I bought into Castles and Crusades right away, and I became a fan, and I set up a fan website, as everybody did back in that days. If you could do HTML, you set up a website for your favorite game. And I put a bunch of my house rules up, some character classes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I had character classes. I had the Duelist, I had the Acrobat, I had... and then I had a psionics system up there, and I had a magic system that had spell points and
That's what on your.
That was the genesis of Amazing Adventures, was my Castles and Crusades house rules that were online.
Yeah.
And Break Daddy had seen them and contacted me, and we started. Jason Alexander was a guy that used to do tech support for you guys.
He did my
Yeah.
tech support. Thank
Yeah,
God.
great guy, fantastic
I'm not real
guy.
good with computers. So-
And he and I became good friends, and he loved my stuff, and he kind of hooked me up. It was 2006, I think, was the year that you were at Gen Con with Gary. 2007. That was the year that he hooked me up with you guys. I pitched what at the time was Pulp Siege
That's right.
to
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
there, and you said you thought you were just looking to get into other genres
Yeah.
of game, and you thought it was a great idea. So I basically really quickly cobbled together all these house rules that I had on my website, made them modern, designed up some firearms rules, and wrote the game, sent it in, sat on his desk for literally 2 years.
These are the days that were filled with Gygax stuff.
Yeah. But in that time, you had Star Siege going, and my first actual published gig with you guys was the only adventure module for Star Siege.
That's
It was
right.
Wow, yeah, I
Another
forgot
fine
about
mess.
that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so like you said, because you had emailed me and you was like, I looked at the Pulp Siege rules. I really like them. We're gonna move forward on them, but it's
Yeah.
back in the queue. But I have this. I want to do some adventure modules for Star Siege. Can you whip something up? So
And to allude to something Davis mentioned, Todd had left the company Mike left in 03. Todd's leaving in about 05. Is that right? Somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
And when the D20 market collapsed, TLG about went out of business. It's just pretty much me and Peter Bradley at that point, and he's contract labor. So I'm running the company kind of on a shoestring, and that's why and I'm trying to work with Gary this whole time, trying to kind of to weed through that. I've managed to kind of hack my way through the D20 glut, and this is where, he talks about it sitting on my desk for 2 years, and the reason is because I didn't have time to kind of go through the manuscripts and clean the manuscripts and get them ready for layout and publishing, and Davis to do Photoshop, or Mac to do Photoshop, or whoever. I was doing, Trellix was the program I used for our internet, and that PayPal account. You couldn't really order, you had to send in the money via PayPal and list what you wanted, to order. So it was kind of a one-man show for about 2 years, which is
it's funny though, because
impossible to do.
at the time, I had started in the industry with some stuff I did for Palladium Books back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Without going into details, because we don't go into details, that did not end well. Did not end well. But part of the thing that happened there was I had submitted a manuscript to them that sat on Kevin's desk for like a year. And that whole thing, I nearly quit the gaming industry over that. A couple people who were wonderful people, Bill Coffin, Steve Trustrom, had taken the time to get in touch with me and say, keep going, what you're doing is good, it's not you, So I ended up working for Eden Studios at the time. And then I would send things to George, and they would sit for months.
Yeah.
So I gradually started to learn that it's not you.
Yeah.
This is just the way the industry works. When you send something into a publisher, don't expect to hear back from it and you learn that it's okay. So once a month, after a while, you reach out and you say, hey, is there any movement on this? And you go there. But yeah, but when it sat on Steve's desk, I was starting to think it's happening again. He's gonna tell me he likes it, and then he's gonna get back to me and say it's terrible.
And for us, it's part of publishing. Things get log jammed, and it wasn't. And I have kind of a standing policy. We always have. I don't want your property to get log jammed. So, and I would tell Jason, if you want to shop it around. But I will get to it eventually. This is where the middling years are really tough. It's me kind of running, and it's clearly you really can't. And the volume of material that Gygax was sending me was huge, so it was difficult to keep up with that. With supporting CNC at the time, Davis started writing for us again because CNC's doing so well, about 06 or 07, about the time Jason came back. But at this point, between 2007 and about 2010, the D20 market collapse changed everything in the industry. Previously, for us, and this is how Mac set up the business model, you would get a cover, you would write a synopsis of your book, you would give its format.
Oh wait, I want to interrupt real quick though. Just an FYI on that. What's the market? It's like 6 years, 7 years. That it dips?
3 to 5 years on an RPG. If that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
If any of you get into publishing, it's 3 to 5 years.
On an
Up and
RPG,
down.
it really
Up and
its
down. Up and
lifespan is
down.
about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and you can predict it. I mean, it's really good
Yeah.
prediction.
And is
So
anyone here for publishing purposes? Are you starting a game company?
We're just here to.
Or are you just here for TLG? You are?
okay.
Feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, and we'll get to a
Yeah,
question and answer.
we'll open. Yeah, I'm going to kind of roll us through, and we can get to a question
And in
session.
fact, hold on just a second. Does anybody know how long this goes?
An hour and a half.
We have an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So in the middling years, the D20 market collapsed, and distributors got burned retailers and distributors got burned in a horrible, horrible way, because the way it worked, we would put this package together, send it to distributors, and they'd send it to retailers. And retailers would pre-order, and the pre-orders is what the distributors would tell us. We can sell 1,600 copies of this. So, because that's what we know the retailers already ordered. So we would order a 2,000 print run or a 3,000 print run, knowing that we've covered our cost and we've moved on. When the D20 market collapsed in 05, that devastated retailers, and it devastated distributors in particular, because they had all of this stock that they had already ordered committed to pay for, but now they can't sell because the customers stopped first. There was so much D20 stuff out. Then the retailers suddenly found themselves a swamp in D20 stuff. They stopped ordering. Distributors stopped ordering. After that, I remember talking to, I think it's Lion Rampant. He told me that he had to take 9 of those large dumpsters, the long ones, of D20 product and haul to the dump because he couldn't move it. It just went right into the dump. So what that did is the companies, the distributors were done with the pre-orders. That's it. Now they would still do it on board games, but not RPGs. They finished with the pre-orders, and that left us in this horrible bind because now I don't know what I can sell. I don't have any pre-orders, so it's just shooting in the dark. I got to guess if this book that I'm doing is going to do well or not.
Which is something that, like, you explained to me just a couple years ago, which is a lot of people talk. There's a lot of backlash against Kickstarter now about why companies are kickstarting everything, and people are sick of Kickstarters, and why should we have to do it on Kickstarter? Why can't you just release it? And what Steve is talking about is why. Kickstarter has now become literally the only way that publishers have, the only metric to know if something's going to sell.
Yeah, and this is really important because see, and because I remember the discussions we had because I'd be like, well, where are the numbers? Where's all the feedback that we get from the brick and mortar stores? There's no feedback. They might order like 50 copies of something. They'll never tell you how many they sell. It's just if they sell 50, they'll order more. But if they're sitting on 50 and like 1 year later they've only sold 1, you never know. So you never got this feedback to know what's popular, what's not popular, what's working, what's not, which was very frustrating. Kickstarter, however, lets you know every day what's working and what's not, which is allowing refinement in product development, getting your market, and getting something out there that actually makes working 80 hours a week worth it. You know?
So that lasts for about 5 years, and really the only reason that Troll Lord Games survived. Castles and Sage was doing well, but it's the Gygaxian Fantasy World series. We were publishing those at the time, and I knew we had a ready market for it, so I knew I could print those and sell them. So it's really Gary Gygax.
That your bullheaded stubbornness not to quit.
That staying alive moment. I remember. I can't remember what year. It was like 06 or something. I was leaving Origin, and I thought, okay, we're done. There's no money coming in. I can't move any product. I got to print this. I don't have any money to print it. And so I didn't know if I wanted to shut it down or not. And I got into the truck and I turned the radio on, and that Bee Gees song, Staying Alive came on, and I thought, well, that's fate or something. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'll stick it out for a little longer. So I remember, so this goes on for like 5 years. Those middling years are tough because, and it's Gygax keeping us alive. But this is what Jason's talking about. In 010, I'm not sure.
My life.
I'm not sure when Kickstarter. What are you doing?
You don't turn that off, it's going to end.
I can't remember when Kickstarter becomes a thing. I think it's about 2010.
Yeah.
11 thereabouts. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
And we had a book called The Castle Keeper's Guide that we were doing, and Aldo Gianti might.
That's the alarm at the farm.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You got to go check it.
Yeah.
All right. So the Castle Keepers, Aldo Gianti, who's my distributor, said, "Look, dude, this is a way you can replace the pre-order system. Get it on Kickstarter." And I was like, I'm not doing this. This is the most ridiculous idea.
I know, we had that conversation. I remember that conversation in the hotel room.
Not half as ridiculous as your pre-order system was.
Yeah, because Amazing Adventures, Steve was like, very much, we're not going to do Kickstarter, but Amazing Adventures came out, and it was a Kickstarter just done through Troll Lord Games' website.
It was basically in-house.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Ever so slightly rougher than
because it had stretch goals and everything else. It was on there, yeah.
Yeah, I did all that in Trellix, I think, yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's right, because I didn't want to do Kickstarter. I'm kind of the suspicious nature. I don't really trust other entities.
We did about
3 or 4.
3 or 4 products.
Rune Lore, Amazing Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we designed these pages. If you go to them, I still got, I'm sure, it saved somewhere that would be these, it was, I didn't call it stretch goals, but
pledge levels and stretch goals,
things, yeah. Oh, yeah,
it was like bonus materials.
It didn't work nearly as well as. It did okay, actually. It did fair to middling, but certainly not as good as.
Well, it was bad when it crossed over, though, because you had at least one product that crossed over from
Air.
From the
Codex of Air.
But the thing is, it's also important is that Troller wasn't the first one that tried that, because Arc Dream actually started. They were calling it the ransom method. Arc Dream started that with Delta Green source books, and it was basically if you don't place this many pre-orders, we're not going to print the book.
Yeah, now that is, you probably
So-
remember this because the very first thing I did in '06 or something is I tried a pre-order system.
Yeah.
We're going to do and the Codex of Error is what Todd's alluding to. We're going to do the Codex of Error. It's going to cost $39.99, $29.99 if you pre-order it. And we got some pre-orders in, but it wasn't enough nearly to, use some PayPal, click button. And then I got into so the Codex is funny because it not only did it do that, but then I did that in-house Kickstarter on it, which it raised $4,000 or something, I don't know. And then later we did a Kickstarter on the Codex of Error. So I had to fulfill 3 types of, strange things to get that thing out and done. I can't remember which Kickstarter we did first. I think it might be the Player's Handbook, but I think it was Classic Monsters that we did. And I finally acquiesced after about a year of it, because it was blowing up everywhere, and it was clearly working, and it was clearly doing something. And as soon as I saw what it did, I saw, okay, this is going to replace this pre-order system that we just lost. And we dove into the Kickstarter like absolute madness. I don't know how many of you support our Kickstarters, but we're at 31. Tim, is that where we are?
I think we're at 28.
28. So we've got just a ton of Kickstarters, and the reason is because that now has replaced that whole system. We can put a product out if people want it, and they comment. They're giving us direct comments. I love this idea, and then we get feedback immediately, and we're always we try to get in there and talk to everybody. So the Kickstarter thing replaced the pre-order system, which pretty much Gygax passed away in '08, and we lost our '07, and we lost the '08, and then we lost the licenses in '08. So those 2-3 years there were even tougher than normal because I didn't have the Gygax to prop up. But Kickstarter comes in about that time frame and kind of saves the company from that. And now we're watching, as Kickstarter has taken on this entire life of its own, we're watching the digital stuff. That stuff that I negotiated with Jay Mathis way back in the day has become, 20 or 30% of our revenue now?
About that, yeah, depending on the month, but definitely it's up there.
And now, so that's kind of blossomed. And our PDFs are pretty much just PDFs. I mean, they're not even interactive things. And now Tim has got us pulling us lock, stock, and barrel into Twitch.
Yeah, we're trying to get there. I mean, it's a learning curve for sure on everything we do, but Twitch is, I think it's one of the next ways that things are growing. You've adapted to getting out there and getting to things now. It's like if something comes on the market that might work for us, let's try it out. And I think that's partly because
I'm a little more accepting of new things.
Yeah. And and it's still the early days for Twitch.
Yeah, but also beforehand, anything, new stuff that come on, Steve would look at it, but his attention span for it was very short. If it wasn't something that hooked him right off, it was swept to the side pretty quick.
Yeah, I didn't entertain ideas long that didn't quickly capture my attention. So because I just assumed that no one else would be interested in as well. But yeah, so the digital now we've shifted in that, and we're looking at generating revenue for the company from doing Twitch channels. We've started about 6 months ago at GM's Tricks of the Trade, where since I've been gaming for 30 years and I run games every Thursday night, and I've been doing it, Todd and Mac and I have been gaming together for forever.
Years.
Yeah, a long time. All the kind of little things that I do at a table, Tim had the idea to turn it into a newsletter. So we started putting this newsletter out there, and it's proved wildly popular. And now we're going to hopefully
do some on Twitch.
Move it to Twitch.
And it's just another format of making things, present. Everything that we've done, books, you get everything ready, you get everything going, and then you wait a while. It's got to be produced, got to get sent out,
right.
And then a year and a half later you see it. Well, on live streaming, other things, you get instant feedback from people, and you get to interact with people just by talking to them when you're doing it. So theoretically set up this channel. We set up the Tricks of the Trade. People can ask you questions right there. We can spend 30 minutes or whatever a week going over that. And it's just a way to interact with people, because this has gone way beyond just publishing books.
Right. But even that ties all into what we're doing, which is a publishing company making Castles and Crusades and Amazing Adventures and the other games that we do. And this becomes a way not only to promote that, but to be part of the community, so the community can, kind of get inside like Kickstarter's allowed us to do, and we interact with everybody. And Todd, you'll be glad to know that I'm doing Tim with the Twitch the exact same way I did Todd with Gary's stuff, because just a few minutes ago, I was asking Tim, when can we go live? And he said, I'm thinking about 2 weeks. And I said, well, what about Tuesday? Can we do it Tuesday?
Yeah,
So-
we can. We're not.
Steve's ever popular phrase. Okay, we need to find out about this so we can move forward.
Yes,
Yeah,
move
that
forward.
sounds
Move
exactly
forward.
like even the intonation.
Yeah. Todd's known me a long time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the arc of the company. I mean, it literally has gone from Mac and I and Davis way back in whenever doing offset printing to today where we're on Twitch. And there's very, very few companies out there. I can't think of any that have made this, maybe Frog God Games, but even they had a transition, maybe Goodman Games, that have this arc that has carried them through, really 18th century printing styles to, to the modern era. Does anyone have any questions for us or?
Yeah. So as far as the InDesign work goes now, is that what you guys use now? I
Yes.
assume? Is there any big kind of layout hurdles you could help me prevent from? Because I'm starting to lay out the RPG rulebook. We have, all the core rules in the document. I'm like, okay, well now we got to make this look pretty.
Yeah.
Workflow wise, is there anything I should? Because obviously, need a lot of illustrators, and I'm going to bring in writers to make it better and stuff like that.
Covers. That was a big issue.
What's that?
Do the covers in Photoshop.
Oh yeah. Now
and then
this.
the bleed
Okay.
and other things. Okay, they're really important. They'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches.
This is because we've owned our own print shop and we do so much printing out. We use a printer called Walsworth in Missouri. Fantastic people up there for all our hardback stuff. But I did a book. We do some printing for other companies, and too often people will lay their covers out in InDesign and then PDF it from InDesign. They'll render it. Don't ever do that. Your art's not going to come out clearly. Nothing's going to work. It's just not going to do it in Photoshop. Cover in Photoshop. Interior of your book in InDesign. Your output's going to be so much better. How are you using InDesign?
Yes.
How are you on there? They've got that $40 a month subscription. Is that?
The cloud, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely do that. Their tech support is through the roof helpful. I mean, they're crazy. You can you can Bing it or Google it or however, and stuff will come up really fast. But if you need questions answered, you can get on their chat rooms and.
Yeah, it's been pretty easy. I worked as a really mediocre graphic designer for a brief amount of time, so I know the Adobe suite kind of well,
Yeah.
but not InDesign really, and it has been incredibly easy to learn and jump in. It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah, and they're great people. There's just a few tricks that we've learned with InDesign. When you're laying your book out, you want your columns to be even at the bottom, or as even as you can get them, and you don't want your words bunched up. But they have a kerning ability in there, which reduces the space between words, which will allow you to do that, and they can do that with the spacing in a paragraph between line and line. So, and that's a huge time saver as you're trying to kind of adjust things and make everything kind of line up and look, to work that way. It has taken until literally about 2 weeks ago from Peter Bradley, who does 80% of our graphic design. Basically, I think you mentioned earlier, it was the other panel. Peter lays stuff out, the rough kind of 80% of it, and then he sends it to me, and I'll do the final go over on it. And there's layers in InDesign. I never use them. There's layers in Photoshop. I always use them. I never use the layers in InDesign. And for the better part of half a decade, Peter has been yelling at me to use layers in InDesign. When I was doing the monster book, which is 382 pages of pictures and stuff, and the book I did the tome. I did it. I almost did it. I doubted myself. Tome of the Unclean. I laid that out, and it's all in one layer. So when I'm going,
Really easy to do.
I know
Fair.
it's insane.
Yeah, I'm already too deep in, so.
What are you on one layer or two?
I think I have 3. Like I have a paper texture and like a master pages kind of a thing.
Okay, yeah, the master pages are going to be a little bit different than the layers.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And then I think I have 2 layers.
Okay.
And like all 110 pages on that so far.
Make sure the art is on its own layer.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, and that's because what happens when you're doing that, I can't remember what it's called, detect edges, and your text is going to wrap around your art.
Yes.
If the art is on its own layer, it'll do it almost immediately. If it's not, it won't do it. You got to get in there and kind of. So there I am doing it 20 minutes per picture, and Peter's doing. And he finally, about page 80 or so of the Monsters and Treasure, because he laid that one out, and when I was going back through and kind of cleaning up what I wanted to clean up, I actually texted him and said, "Hey man, you should try layers on this InDesign. It's pretty cool." So he was unamused with my commentary. So.
Speaking of artists, you know, we haven't had many illustrations drawn yet, but for the book, I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to have a little something in that corner, and like, oh, I don't have as many words here as I thought, so I'm gonna use a quarter of this page for a little illustration to fit here and there. Do you recommend any kind of workflow to like going out and contacting artists and, you know, hey, it's kind of a weird question.
No, first thing you want to do is get a hold of 1 or 2 or 3, if you can, really reliable artists. This is probably the strangest thing, one of the 3 strangest things that Mac did for the company, PayPal, the Advantage program, but the original artist he hired was Jason Wong. And this guy created so much art in the beginning, but even after everybody left the company, there has not been a year that has passed that I've not used Jason. I used him the other day. I needed 4 pieces colored. I sent them to Jason. He had them back to me in like 48 hours.
One thing I'd recommend, because I did the art direction early on, is find some artists that you like and contact them and offer them a job, wherever your budget is, offer them a job just to do some generic picture that you can use down the line and see how fast they get it to you.
And how fast they respond.
If they can't do a generic picture quickly, you're probably not going to rely on them down the line. You want to find someone else. Because you don't want to get into a crunch on a book waiting for the art and you don't have it. You need to make sure you have reliable artists up front.
Yeah, because your fan base will blame you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's never the artist's fault, and that's okay. That's good. I mean,
well, and that is your job as a publisher. I don't. If it doesn't work, it's mine. So, yeah, and Mac's right, because what you're talking about, and I experience this every book I lay out. I'm gonna, and like you mentioned, you've got 3/4 of a page and a quarter blank page, and Davis set long ago a standard that I think everyone agreed with. We don't do blank pages. We don't do 2 things that Davis refused to allow us to do. You can't have a paragraph end in 1 word. So it's always going to have 2 or more. And no page can end in like a paragraph. A lot of publishers, you'll get to page 24 and it's just 1/2 paragraph. Absolutely, we won't do any of that. Yeah, it just looks unprofessional. It looks extremely unprofessional. So, but that creates huge layout problems because now I've got 4/5 of a page I got to fill somehow.
okay, but I noticed that you were I want to throw in this before I forget. You were commenting about empty space on your page. Don't fluff your page with art. Okay, we went through that whole thing too, where we were putting like curly cues on the edge of the page
don't
and like making it look like scroll work and stuff like that. Drop it. Okay, it doesn't do anything for your publication. Doesn't do anything for. And if you try to read it, actually,
It's distracting.
it's very, very distracting to have like all that fluff crap at the sides. Okay, and I know some people enjoy
I
it, but
actually tried that, some line work and designs, and I'm like, oh, that looks dumb.
yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
The only time
It works some places, but not.
The
most
only time I've
places
ever seen it
work.
that I thought it looked nice is when you do full bleed off the whole page. So like almost all 5th edition stuff I think is done full bleed off the page, but it's not that scroll work stuff.
Yeah, I
it's
wish
the
I had
picture that goes off page.
Yeah, I wish I had an example to show you what not to do, but I think you get the idea. It's just not like that little like.
I've done stuff I'm doing stuff for tables,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not much. It's just to keep, like a fancier than a
Right.
Right, then erect it. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. But all that other stuff like actually breaks with the eyes flowing across the text. Okay, so you don't want the eye to jerk away from the text.
Yeah, I
'cause
think
that
I've
makes
noticed a
reading
lot of publishers these days are doing, they get really wrapped up in the graphic design of their work. And we want this to look like a CIA dossier, and it's going to have folders here. And it's become a real fad in industry. And your first reaction is going to be, man, this is a gorgeous book that is impossible to read because I cannot pay attention to what's on the page.
There's too
Because
much
and
going on.
if you go back to what you reread and you enjoy reading, like physically picking up and reading, you're going to find out it's clean text most often. It's clean text. Mine's comic books, obviously, but it's clean text that everyone enjoys reading. You can read it quickly. Your brain absorbs it more easily rather than being distracted. So the artwork and all the scroll work or whatever, don't let it interrupt with the text, the actual physical space of the text.
Okay.
So yeah, the art. This is where just
And
kind
one
of.
more thing about the art direction that just occurred to me. When
He
you're
has a
trying
question.
to figure out if the artist is reliable, you also, you don't want an artist that you have to hold their hand, or you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
spend a bunch of time figuring out what, if, you know, when we work with Jason, we say, Jason, in picture of an orc fighting a dwarf, okay? And he comes back better than I could describe what I wanted. Then there are artists who, I tell them I want a picture, and then they write me an email that's 3 pages long about what they want, what specifics in the picture. I don't have time. You're the artist.
Right.
You convey to me.
That's what you're paying
Off just a
Yeah.
couple. I'm gonna
Right.
give you a couple sentences.
Yeah.
I need it back in a professional manner, quickly, in a better flourish than whatever I described to you. If you're gonna doing multiple hats, don't waste time on artists like that.
Yeah.
Go find someone else.
Yes, this is not going into some museum somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not, all right? It's to convey an emotion or a setting, you know, something, right? But we're not talking about museum quality artwork.
Well,
We're,
and that, yeah, sorry, I was just gonna,
Okay,
from a
and-
budgetary standpoint, just don't pay a lot either. Don't set that precedent early
Yeah.
yeah,
for paying too much because it's your first thing.
When the company picks off, you can pay more. Picks
Yeah.
up, you can pay more. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Now, the one caveat to that is if somehow you discover the next Frank's Frazetta or something, he wants to email you all day, then you need to hire him.
They let him email you on it. Did you have a question?
You did.
Yeah, so specific to the selling versus the physical creation process. So you have a concept and then you're like, okay, well, we've got the Kickstarter and then there's the communications and various, you put things in magazines still? Or
No, magazine's kind of a dead medium for that.
Yeah.
Right.
okay,
Do
yeah.
they even exist?
Unless you,
Yeah, when was the last time you picked up a magazine?
Yeah. Yeah, not so much.
Okay, all right.
When I went through my old Dragon archive.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
But, so what's that process that goes along, there's the publication process, but then there's the whole sales mechanism that has to go along with that.
Well,
What does that look like?
So
Wow, you're into it.
this is interesting because I run the company, which means at the end of the day, I got to make sure everything's functional in the company. Everybody's paid, bills are paid, papers ordered for the print shop, Todd's scheduled to come in to work in the print shop, whatever I need, I got to go in the print shop. Tim's got to have what he's got to have. Conversely, I write a lot of stuff. Jason does an immense amount of writing for us, so I got to manage whatever projects he's doing. I got to get a hold of Mac whenever I can to have him edit, and Davis is writing all kinds of stuff. So it's a huge number of hats that I'm doing, and because I do a lot of writing myself, I guess I'm the only one that does writing and management. I don't think anyone. Todd, you do a little bit because Todd's actually in charge of all supplies.
Yeah, I don't do any management
Yeah,
anymore.
if I'm running on something, I just Skype Todd. I need this, please, and he makes sure it's there wherever it needs to be. So personnel, that's part of the personnel issue, but it's actually extraordinarily difficult for me to shift because Tim and I have to work on the marketing every day. Not a day passes that we're not doing because the market is not like it used to be, that we could sell into a retail shop, a distributor, and they're going to put it on the shelf, and there it's fronted for, even if you're not selling it, it's fronted and your logo's out there. It's nothing like that now.
No, not at all.
Now it's emails and Twitter and Facebook.
Online and direct, which is good. But then, yeah, your question basically is, once you've got this book, and what are you going to do with it now, sort of thing? Is that what you mean?
How do you market the book?
Or was it a workflow thing?
I guess we're talking about kind of the product life cycle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you have a product, and specifically, you've got to sell it.
Right.
Right.
And part of that, you've got the front end, which is the Kickstarter, and then you've got that 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Of continuing to try to have sales. So, what is that process, and what are the avenues that you use?
Like, what do we use for advertising?
Tim, you want to take
Well,
that?
I mean,
You mean like continued
The ad-
sales
yeah.
on a product as well?
the
Yeah.
life of the cycle of it, basically 3 to 5 years. Now, you can't basically write one book and expect that to be it. If you go down and see our food,
There's dozens of
copies,
books down there.
100
150 books,
It's
yeah.
just basically you have to keep
And that's a
producing.
fraction of what we
But
actually
if-
have. Yeah.
Right, but if you're gonna do this and you've got a book, you need to promote it, obviously, you need to sell it. So if you try, distribution's minuscule to what it used to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like 3 or 4%. The first thing that we do, we create an ad copy for it, and we put that out with the cover, whatever art piece that we've got. So you've got Tim goes in and he makes a web page. And sometimes you'll do it on the store if it's a smaller book. Sometimes, like the World of Weird, we got an entire page dedicated to that because so many things are attached to it. So we do a little bit of ad copy. Jason actually does this professionally, so we get great ad copy on it, Jason, and then we put a picture up there with a price and intent and all of that. And this will come post Kickstarter. After the Kickstarter, we get it out there, and then you've got to push that. Usually, a good way, if you're going down that road, a great way to get started is to set up a Facebook group page for whatever it is you're doing, book or game or whatever, and invite people in. And then you get people talking about it, asking questions. You're interacting with people, and then they're going to let people know. And you got to be pretty open with the Facebook. Let as many people in as you possibly can, because for you, it's an advertising venue. It's a way to get what you're trying to sell across to them, and you can direct them to that page, especially once it's been printed from there. And then so we use Twitter for the same thing. Twitter does not generate a lot, but it generates recognition. Now, we don't get hardly any traffic from Twitter, I don't think.
Not much, but we get some exposure out of it.
We get lots of exposure.
People will discuss it sometimes. We'll get a little thread. I think probably having a storefront, which is easy to do, right? Set up a storefront. If you've got a couple books and you're trying to sell them, and you've also, hopefully, if you're doing an RPG, you've gotten on OBS, which is, one bookshelf, which is drive-through, because they're getting an RPG now. And if you did it smart, you'll work with them to use them as your distributor, because then you can send this book out to people.
So, and the all-encompassing important thing to get your message out to people is to build a mailing list. Facebook's going to be 4%, Twitter's going to be 1%, Kickstarter's going to be 9%, distribution's going to be, but that mailing list, that is gold. And that's why you'll see a friend of mine sold his for $9,000. He just sold his mailing list because it's just gold. And so really what you want to do is get like what we've done here with Amazing Adventures is a perfect example. I've played Amazing Adventures twice, I think, a little bit. I don't know the game that well. I know it works with the Siege engine. I know I love the game. I know Jason's a fantastic writer. Jason went in and he set up a Facebook group page, and he's on it all the time talking, and he pushes the mailing list because he knows to move Amazing Adventures, we need people to sign up, because Tim wants it once a week. I would do it every 15 minutes with the mailing list, but I would be that guy.
And remember, and Facebook and Twitter and all those places they're just a way to create a mailing list. Okay, and the mailing list is basically
people. That's true. It's to interact with.
Well, it's
people.
It's more than that. But like from the marketing, like from the pure business perspective of making money out of it, you need that mailing list, because those are the people who actually like your product, like you, and will purchase product in the future. Most of the people who come to the Facebook page, they may have purchased it in the past, but
maybe
we don't. You never know. The Facebook page is actually just to talk to your friends and family and your customers who you like, because most of our Facebook page, we all know each other, or we mostly know each other. We all get along, so our Facebook page is just freaking awesome, especially the Castles and Crusades group. We all know each other, okay? So we get there and talk and jibber jabber, go over rules, and I get a lot of good rules ideas from that Facebook page.
But by the same token, like when you're kickstarting, don't expect to see a lot of pledges that come from you posting on Facebook.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's myth that Facebook is the way to get millions of dollars on Kickstarter.
We get one about
Facebook is where you
5%.
meet people
Usually.
that you like and that like you and like your product, and that's where y'all get along and y'all can hang out and talk, basically.
Like we know that the people in our Facebook group are gonna pledge our Kickstarters, but we're not getting extra stuff outside of that, and they're not coming to us from the Facebook group. They're coming to us anyways, and they're also on Facebook.
Does that help? Yep. Okay, cool.
And I'm the worst Facebook person in the world because I just talk. I never promote the mailing list. I never do anything. That's where I meet like half the people I know here I met through Facebook. But I never promote the mailing list, which, it's not. Yeah.
Okay, you had a question?
Oh, I just wanted to add for the exposure and advertising that I would set up at conventions, and I wouldn't have like a game listed. I would go in the dealer hall, have a booth there, set up, play it live, be loud, attract attention. But also if you contact any kind of bloggers or podcasts, if you send them a copy of the game, maybe play through or something, and get them to like it, promote it, probably create a lot more because they'll come and check out your website or something like that.
That's a really good point. If you want to know what's happened to magazines, it's podcasts. That's morphed. Magazines really, no one really does it, but podcasts, you get a lot of exposure there.
You had a question back there? Oh, no. No, you're just pointing. No, sorry.
I want to put a plug in since we're talking about podcasts. The Crusader podcast, if you aren't aware of it, go to your favorite podcast site, look it up. It's fantastic.
It's really great. Good podcast.
It's really new. They're only, what, like 6 episodes in?
Six or seven.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, there's a couple.
Yeah, you're on 8, okay.
I guess, so at what stage is the book in when you guys go live on a Kickstarter? Like, how much work is done on it? And also, what sort of lead-in do you do to your Kickstarter to kind of generate buzz beforehand?
Okay, so to answer your first question, in the early days, I just wanted to cover a good chunk of the text. That didn't work because so often things didn't get finished, and it just gets log jammed too long. So now I don't require all the interior art, but the book has to be written. It doesn't have to be edited, but it's got to be written, and I have to have a cover. Then we'll go live on Kickstarter. That at least, you're going to find as you're producing anything that you produce, everybody's got lives. They're going to be doing this part-time. They're going to write, you got to edit, artists got to draw, and things are going to come up, and they're going to get delayed, or it's going to require more work than initially, which is everything, I think. Requires, what do you say, double everything I say?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And that's a good rule of thumb. If you think you need $5,000, you're going to need 10, and that's not all you need to get. And then if you tell people it's going to be there in 6 months, make it a year. Okay?
I do this all the time. Okay, I want this done in a month, and Tim will mentally go, okay, we'll have this done in 2 months.
Especially when you're considering shipping, and considering domestic, and especially considering it international, because the cost difference is very, very big.
And here's another thing. When you're doing a Kickstarter, your stretch goals should be additional content in your book. Don't offer, and we have done this, and companies have done it, but companies have also gotten burned badly on this. Don't offer book bags. Don't offer posters. Don't offer glasses.
Just don't.
Because you have to pay for all of that, and all you're kickstarting is the cost of your book. You're not actually charging for all these things that you're offering.
Unless you factor all that in. If you factor every bit of it in, which is kind of difficult to do, because that leads into what Todd said, because shipping can get kind of crazy. You end up with, and we've been here, we've done it. A couple of projects, I can't remember which one. It was Codex Nordica. We ended up with so many mugs that they paid X shipping. Todd remembers, but they were getting 4 mugs out of this thing. Well, the box went from that to that, and now we're out peanuts, packing, and we've lost media rate. They've already paid shipping. So, yeah, we got hammered hard on Nordica. But now we try to have the cover, we try to have the guts ready before, at least ready to go to editing before. If you can get more, great. But if you put too much in, if you get all your art and your layout done, well, you're out $5,000 and it might not fund.
Right.
So,
The
it's a
last
real
2 projects that I was on, the Player's Guide to Aired and now Amazing Adventures, which we're leading up to, the goal was for it to be ready to go to press at the end of the Kickstarter. Aired got a little held up in editing with that one.
Editing is the absolute hardest thing.
But the goal, and I'm fixing that with Amazing Adventures because I have my editor is one of my GMs on the play testers, so I have him editing as we go.
What was the second part of the question?
Like, what do you do in the lead up to the Kickstarter to generate buzz or just anything that you do in preparation for it?
You want to tackle that?
Well, I mean, again, that your Facebook group, something is a concentrated area for this thing. Feedback as much as you can. Give out. So a lot of times when we've got something we'll put out a sample of what is there long before the Kickstarter starts, because then you can really get people looking at it and going, oh, this is cool. I want to do this. And a little bit depends on if this is your first one or your second one. You get better at them, but you also get sort of that experience, and people will know who you are, and they will have backed your last one. And so
it also depends on how long you want to run your Kickstarter. We've done them without any lead. We've announced them raw. Kickstarter live now, but we're doing it for 35 days. So you've got 35 days really to get the message out. So you can pre-generate it, for 30 days, but frequently we've found that people forget. They don't mark their calendars or whatever. So we do it sometimes we'll do it about 2 weeks out. You get risky if you do it raw, it's risky because you really want to have a good first day. If you've got a lot of basically to hit the kick track and things like that, there's 3 factors: comments, number of backers and the amount of money that
And
they
this
pledge.
you're talking about Kick Track. You want to get
Yes.
noticed up
Right,
on the
'cause
top
then-
of the Kick
yeah,
Track page.
It's free advertising.
Yeah, it's free advertising on the Kickstarter page. So if you get a high number of pledges on the first day, then it goes up and more people see it.
So-
When you just go to Kickstarter and all those products you see up there, it's because they got high funding really, really quick.
What we've found, if you're starting it just fresh, and it's one of your early ones, and Tim kind of developed this, and Tom Tullis, or you, I guess, came up with this kind of a pre-order type thing. So you let people know that we're going to do we call it a soft open, and it's for everybody who's backed our Kickstarters before, and we give them something extra. So that you probably know, Brad, you've seen it.
Yeah.
So if you come in early, we're going to give you an extra book, and what that does is helps the algorithms drive the numbers, which helps the advertising and all of that.
Yeah. And I would just like to add that if you're going to do a 30-day Kickstarter, if it's your first one, plan on spending 30 days.
Staring at Kickstarter.
Literally going back every like
Your
15
workload.
minutes to see.
My wife
Yeah.
hates when we're doing a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
She's like, you're just impossible to live with because every day you're looking at it and go, why can't we get to the next level? I'm like,
I mean,
So-
I don't want this to devolve into a Kickstarter thing. We've done it before, right? We've done seminars on Kickstarter. But I will say that that's, to me, is one of the most important things. Is you got to choose your time wisely, because if you can't be there and answer a question at 3 a.m., then by 5 you've lost that pledge.
Yeah.
So you lose a little sleep, or you sleep, or you have people run it in circles. I'm trying to, when I see something, I try to answer it.
Yeah, response is insanely
yeah.
important.
And run.
Response
I
time is
love a
important.
3-day Kickstarter.
Tim's about to say a 10-hour Kickstarter.
just get it done.
Well,
They're pretty stressful.
I'm interested in seeing how this plays out, but our numbers sort of do this. Do you remember, guys, ever listen to National Public Radio at all? You know, I had fundraisers. They used to be 2 weeks long.
Yeah.
Now they're 1 day. Now they advertise for 2 weeks ahead of time and then 2 weeks after. But they talk about it for afterward. But that short amount of time to gather information and momentum and everything is concentrated into either 1 day or 2 days. And so it's a risk, right? It is a risk, and I don't want to do it. But you guys were welcome to let us know if it works. But I mean, we have done 2 3-day ones.
We've done a couple of 3-day ones. I tend to lean towards the longer ones just because it gives you time to get
3 days and very cold.
it gets,
that
it
was-
gets time for the information to get in. And even with a mailing list as large as ours and as often as we send out the updates that we do and all of these things, people still come up to us after the Kickstarters. I didn't hear about your Kickstarter.
Right.
So it's tough.
I think another thing though about as far as generating buzz and keeping the buzz going, and Tim was talking about make sure you respond, but also be really careful to filter your responses. There's going to be somebody in your Kickstarter that just seems to be out to take you down. It's going to happen. Don't get defensive.
Yeah,
don't argue
ever
with
argue
them.
people.
And everybody seems to do this. You feel like you have to respond on social media these days, and you don't.
Oh, yeah.
You don't.
And don't,
Just-
just as a side note to that, don't change your game because one guy got in there and said, you should do this.
Don't read reviews. Forget it.
Yeah, actually,
Unless it says 5-star.
The best thing to think
Did-
about.
Did you have a question?
I was just going to add to the whole examples thing, tying your samples and mailing list and where they're
Yeah, absolutely. If you can give a free PDF, anything that you can give, art teasers, anything, because and really on the mailing list, you really want to send stuff out so that people who have we're pretty aggressive with, we don't have a mailing list that people haven't signed up for. We don't take emails from random places and jam them into our mailing list. We want you to sign up that you want to hear, because you're going to hear from us, because Brett knows. You're going to get some emails, because I like to send emails, but yeah, tying something to it's a great idea.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that.
Unless you
that
can get a
gets everybody out there.
450,000 name.
Do you have a question, Matt?
What's your guidance on non-US involvement?
Shipping?
The shipping and marketing and everything?
The marketing is going to be about the same because it's all digital now anyway. So most of it, whether it's a podcast that they're listening to or Facebook group or whatever, so that kind of is the same thing. Shipping is a deadly dangerous thing because it's by volume. Was it 4 pounds, Todd?
Yeah.
If you go over 4 pounds, it's 4 pounds 1 ounce. You got to ship priority. So you're going to go from your customer paying $18 to Canada, I think, or $22
Yeah.
to Canada for a small package to $65. And
It's huge.
It's huge, and then
By
and it's
size
worse.
and by weight. And yes,
You get into New Zealand and Australia, because we ship to all of these countries, it goes to $192.
Yep.
So, I mean, it will wipe you out in a
Right.
heartbeat.
Yep. And again, we've seen customers blame us for it.
Yeah.
And you
Not
have to-
often. Most
Not-
people are
but every
understanding.
once in a while, yeah. And you have to tell them it's not that
And
we're
I'm-
making money off of
And
shipping.
to
It's-
defend people living overseas, they're getting it in every direction. Not only are they having to pay this shipping fee, but they've got a VAT tax that they got to pay too.
Yeah.
Yeah, on top of that.
We had a guy order 4 books, the cores and the Codex of Arid, and that's like 12 pounds. I don't know. That's heavy. And he's in Denmark, and he paid for the books, $80 or $90 or whatever it was, $120, and then he paid $140 in shipping, and then he got a VAT tax, which was like $90 on top of that, and it's.
It was $400 or $500, and at the time I found a flight, a round trip ticket from St. Louis to Amsterdam for $199.
To the poor guy.
I could have flown it out there and given it to him cheaper than he would have paid for what.
Yeah, so you can get around it. There's boxes called flat rate priority mail, which is standard. It's 48 shipping and 64 overseas. Something like that. And then a medium or a large box priority flat rate. So you can do that, but this is where the Kickstarter goes wild. You put one mug in it, both of those boxes, neither one of them will work. So
another place that you have to be really careful doing it. There are companies and stuff that will do the fulfillment for you on it, that you send the product to them. You can either prepackage it or they'll package it for you, but you've got to be very careful. We've done that with a couple of companies and stuff, and we've had to eat a lot of cost because the time and care that you yourself will take and put into packaging the product, these other companies will not. I've had to deal with many times the repercussions of their lack of packing, their lack of care of what they put in there, and it shows up and your product is totally destroyed, and then you are still responsible for getting them the product again. Once again, you're going for that, and then you're going for the shipping as well. So, I mean, you're really getting gigged on that. So you've got to be very, very careful about that.
a couple of things.
I mean, that's
Well, let me
business, so shouldn't
let
they
me
try and-
They don't care.
let me put a little parameter on what Todd's saying. So Todd he packed for us for about 5 years before he just became all supply and writing. We never once that I know of had a damaged product because of Todd's packing. So he packs insanely well. So the one Kickstarter that we hired, it was Avion. I can't remember the name.
Not
of it.
mine.
They these guys shipped a package of books. It was about 12 pounds of books to South Africa in a international mail bag, which is just a bag. They dropped all of those books in the bag
Oh, yeah.
and they shipped it. And we paid $60 or $80 for the international mail bag. Well, it's literally just a bag. When that got to this guy's house, obviously, they were destroyed. They were decimated. We generally, as a company, if the damage happens in shipping, and I don't know that any other companies do this, we generally will replace them.
Because it's actually really rare. It's really rare.
It's very rare with Todd.
Yeah.
It's extremely rare with Todd. Now, Todd's moved out. We got a new shipper, and he does really well, except I back him up sometimes. And I'm not that good, so I'm doing it too fast. I don't know. I actually called Todd on the phone. I'll show him pictures. Can I pack it like this? Will this make it to Canada? So, and it's always no. It's every time, no, that's not going to make it to Canada.
You were talking about how, is that often? Well, there's a company out there who, very popular. They're up and coming. It's Infinite Black. They do their Elder Dice Kickstarter. I don't know if anybody's heard of them.
Yeah.
They're actually changing their shipping company after their last Kickstarter because so many people are posting pictures of just crushed boxes
It's a mess.
that are arising. Now, fortunately, nobody's had any damage. I mean, Infinite Black is a great company. They put out a great product. Fortunately, nobody's had any damaged product from it.
Shipping stuff.
But the fulfillment company they're using, like Todd said, has been, boxes are showing up smashed.
No, yeah, pack yourself as long as you can.
Yeah.
That way you have control over that.
Yeah, I'm new to this, incredibly ignorant, and so forth.
So
but-
we're.
Yeah.
You're in good company.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm doing is pre-alpha rule set right now.
Mhm.
Just started 6 months into it. Several times I've taken it, thrown it in the trash, redeveloped it, and so forth. So as you move this from the pre-alpha, play testing, cover, Kickstarter, what is the order of things in terms of product development? Do you finally get it on the shelves? And how do you make it successful exactly? You know, what's the flow chart?
I guess real quick is idea, outline. I mean, and you got a process, I'm sure, but idea, outline, writing, and then you find, and Jason's big about this. Jason play tests the crap out of his stuff. And then you play test, and then you write it, get it edited, and then get it edited again.
And play test it again. Okay.
And if you can,
Play testing. Play test.
throughout all of this, once you start playtesting, if you can get online, set up your Facebook group, get online, and get groups to play, people you don't know.
Yes.
I got a game. Can you play test this?
Yeah, not just you or your
Right.
friends or your gaming group.
Well,
Find a stranger.
By the same token,
that's
be
willing to do it.
careful about that. Make sure. I would talk to an attorney and get an actual
Oh, you need
NDA
an NDA.
drawn up.
Yeah.
That's enforceable, because people will steal your stuff if you don't know them.
And I'm going to be very
You know?
mercenary about this. The playtesting isn't necessarily just to get your game honed into a good, because don't ever change your game just because two playtesters said this doesn't work.
Right.
The playtesting is also to get the name of the game out there, so that you got people in Washington, in California, New Mexico, and Maine that have played this game, so that when you launch your Kickstarter, you've already got a nascent building list. These guys have already played it. Hey, we're on Kickstarter now. You are a playtester, so you've and hopefully that kind of helps blossom that out.
And no matter what you put in, expect someone to hate it. I mean, they're going to hate
Yeah,
it.
there's going to
and
be
they're
people
going to
that
tell
think
you
you're
what.
the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But a lesson I learned this year, as part of your play test, run it at conventions. Run it at conventions before it's
Oh, yeah,
done.
I've been there.
He was in my
Yeah.
I mean,
play. I ran the upcoming Amazing Adventures 5th edition yesterday, and I told all the guys at the table, you know, if you're okay with it and if you want to, your name is now going to be in the playtesters list. And I made sure to take some time. Do you guys have any suggestions? How do you think it ran? Do you have any questions? Get that feedback. And that's a good way to get your name out there, because at a con, you can have a whole table of gamers. You can have 7 gamers from 7 different states who will talk about your game and have different insights into your game.
And they are,
know.
people going to a con are like people who pledge Kickstarters. It's the common term amongst the publishers is they're alpha gamers.
Yeah,
You
they're
guys are taking time out of your lives to come to a convention to game. That
At
means
great cost.
At great cost, right?
that is
And
cheap.
same thing on Kickstarter. So you're playtesting, because Todd did the CNC stuff in the early days. Jason playtested at conventions. It's just a great way to get people who are enthusiastic about games to begin with to talk about your game.
So in the process, do you contact an artist? Do you start to develop the front cover for you and things along those
I would
lines?
start right away.
Okay.
Okay, because it could take a long time to find a good artist.
And
I
you're
mean,
going
it
to need
takes
art
a
for
long
Kickstarter.
time.
You absolutely have to have art.
And like writers, you may run into a writer like me. For example, gave me a project last year and said, I need this done. And I looked at it and it's like, oh my God, this is so boring. And I went on to other things, right? And then what was it? Like,
It was supposed to be out in December, last
yes,
December.
right. So I looked at it like,
It was my Christmas release, is what it was.
and I was like, I'm just not doing this. I can't. It's not going to sell. It's going to be boring or whatever. And then about November,
Yeah, about that.
because the deadline was coming up, and I had to.
Well, no, the deadline was passed. 'cause
Yeah,
we-
well, I didn't even start
3
it.
months
The
to
deadline
put
was
it
passed. I
together
hadn't even
and
started.
edit it and clean
But I
it and
looked at all
cover
the
it.
notes again, what was supposed to be done. I was like, wow, this is really badass. You know, all I have to do is beef it up a little bit. And then, I guess it's on the way up here. I'm like, man, I'm really ready to get into this thing. And I brought my
Right,
computer
worse,
and
he goes,
everything.
Dude, this is going to be a really cool project.
I know.
That's why I gave it to you a year ago.
Yeah. So this, you don't want like me, okay? That's what you don't want. The guy who's going to sit there and you want the artist. So like I'm saying, it's like, yeah, you want to find someone who's going to get it done, and it can take a long time.
I'm going to qualify that a little bit.
and
This goes
use
with-
Mac's advice on that.
This
Test
goes
them.
with artists and writers. Davis is a fantastic writer, and if you get into his world of NZA stuff, it's amazing. The amount of depth and stuff that's in it is absolutely astounding. You just have to learn how to work with Davis. Like Mac joked at the beginning of this, he still is the way he would, if I'm going to give Davis something to write, unless I say urgent, 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 or you're not going to get paid unless you give me this right now, then I know it might be...
yeah, right.
It might be a year or so.
And wait till I need a paycheck.
And it's really careful. Like, on the other side, if I say, Jason, I need this by Tuesday, it'll be there by Sunday.
I'll not sleep
Yeah,
to
Jason's
make the deadline.
he's a little more anal than Davis is in the process.
I tease him all the time. I said every once in a while I remind Steve. I was like, I'm a Yankee. We stress about things.
And we're Southerners, so we're kind of a little bit more easygoing. So.
But another piece of advice from a design standpoint is, like you said, you've started and thrown it away a couple times.
I've learned from it.
Okay, don't ever throw it away.
Yeah,
Make sure you're very organized about what's what. Yeah, because I've already encountered things, and just as a very basic idea, like I've had something like where titles, you're trying to come up with a title for something, you don't have a title for it, and you throw out some things, and it's actually is a book I did for Eden. I did a World War II All Flesh Must Be Eaten book for Eden Studios, and we're kicking around titles trying to figure out what to call it, and one of the first things I threw out was Band of Zombies, and then we threw it away and was forget it, that's terrible, and we moved on. And then like a month later, I emailed George, I was like, I got it, Band of Zombies. so sometimes things that you think are terrible, they come back to you and you're like, this is really badass. So keep those things that you put aside and revisit them every so often. So.
Well, and then once you've done your Kickstarter and it's funded, and then you've got a little bit of art. Usually I try to have 3 or 4 pieces of art, always color. We've used a lot of black and white art. It's not a good idea on Kickstarter. Use color art. And then dive in. Once it's funded, then you get the artist that you found that you like. Here's 40 pieces that I need. Give yourself a year, like Tim said, to get the whole thing together, get InDesign, lay it out, and then, about a year, 6 months, 8 months after
Yeah,
that.
and you got some other problems coming up that we're
They're
facing.
challenges. They're not problems.
Hey, we got like 3 minutes left, so.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone have any last questions? Any?
No?
Well, I hope we gave you guys a kind of a quick skinny of TLG and helped out as any endeavors that you guys got coming forward.
I have a piece of advice that you're going to encounter starting now is before you start out, write down the core principles of your company, and particularly for your major products, write down the core principles for each product that you do, and don't waver from those. Remember why you got into this, because what's going to happen is, as you get into the industry, it's not just going to be fans that give you reviews. Other publishers are going to talk to you, people that do different things in the industry. They're going to tell you the way they think you should do it. Sometimes you want to take that advice, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And you have to step back and reflect sometimes. Now, me and Stephen Davis, because we've known each other, worked together for so long, a lot of that is just kind of ingrained. But specifically, like when we did Castle Crusades, we wrote down about 15 things. And we said, we're not going to waver from these. No matter what, we're going to stick to these core principles because that's what we want the game to be.
Right.
And you're going to have people that you look up to and other publishers that have been around forever, and they may give you some bad advice. Don't always take their advice.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right to you for what you want to do, don't do it.
Yeah, just listen to your gut. It'll know.
You know, I read something on the internet and it said, it was on, the various blogs where 90% of you like whatever, but one of them stuck out to me. They said, have a 10-word description, have a 50-word description, have a 500-word description.
Yeah.
And I started with that 500-word description. It's like, oh my God, it looks like it's starting to come together here when I was sitting there writing that. I revised it a few times, but now I think with that 500 words, it's there. It's almost like there it is, the 10 Commandments.
It's
right now.
taking shape.
Yeah.
Well, you need that for your ads anyway.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, 'cause-
if you can come up with that for each one of those, and you've already got your ad copy.
Dude, that's a really good idea because I've never been able to do that. When anyone asks me to describe Castles and Crusades, it's all over the board. I have no idea where to start.
And he keeps coming back to me like, dude, you describe it so easy.
Yeah, he does it. Someone else does it real
Tim
well.
and I actually developed a short and long copy for some sites want long, some type.
Yeah.
A Humble Bundle wants as much information as they could possibly get. Back of the book, I can't fit all that on.
Facebook ads, you have to do a
Facebook
certain
ads,
amount of
yeah,
limited,
yeah.
Another thing I'd
Short and
say
long's good.
is I have a very small company of my own, which just has 1 or 2 products out now. But one thing I would say is if you find a collaborator that you work really well with and you think the way they do and you can finish each other, so you get to that point, value that collaborator. Remember why you started working with them. You're not always going to agree. You might butt heads. You might violently butt heads, but value that collaborator.
Well, I think that's about it. If you guys go ahead.
Can I ask a really quick question?
Absolutely.
Say your pre-orders fund or whatever. What percentage extra copies-wise
Print-wise?
of your rule book would you recommend?
Getting picked up by, you talking RPG?
Yeah.
Getting picked up by distribution is difficult these days. There's a lot of gatekeepers now, and the guy that we worked with forever and a day just sold his company to Flat River Group, so even one of the gatekeepers is kind of out, and he would take about anything in. He probably still would. It's hard to say. You want soft cover, hard cover?
Hardcover, well, just from a cost perspective wise, like, you know,
Oh,
you
can take
kickstart
it for
2,000 copies, oh, that's amazing. But is anybody else gonna want this game after?
I would do at least. I would do at least 1,000 more. That's going to give you. It's going to give you a good 3 to 5 years of just no sales. Of just trickle out sales. Probably that. But if you only get like 280 backers on Kickstarter, I'd drop it about 1,000 somewhere around in there. Your price breaks on printing are going to be 500, which isn't a good price break. 1,000, which is
I've been looking at them, that's kind of where the question is.
right.
Yeah.
2,000 is a decent price break. And then beyond that, it gets really good. But so if you can get 2,000, great. But if you only got like 280 backers, and a lot of printers will do 750 copies. They'll do kind of weird numbers in there, but you're not getting any break for it whatsoever. It's just extra money that you're spending on it. So I would try to get it around 1,000. 280 backers, I would do 1,000. But it ties your money up. I mean, if you're talking a 176-page black and white, that's going to cost you about $5,500, $6,000, $7,000 somewhere around in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You've got the.
Yeah, I was like, oh, 20 grand, okay.
Yeah.
okay. You also need
Go
on
full color. It's
Yeah.
really going to drive it up.
Yeah, and you also need which we discovered, you need what do we call them, the sweet pot, the Kickstarter level, to actually make money.
What do you mean?
Like, where do you
The
have
pledge
to be?
levels.
Well, it's going to vary.
Yeah.
It's going to vary by project. But are you talking about?
Like the $50 pledge level, $75,
Oh,
$100
yeah, I'm
pledge
sorry.
level.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very, very important.
In Kickstarter, you don't want to do your RPG in Kickstarter. Here's my pledge level, $29.99, because you're going to get 400 people, and it's going to be like $2,500. It's not going to be enough to help you. You really got to make for Kickstarter's a different animal than pre-orders were in the old days. Though it serves the same function, it's a completely different animal. Alpha gamers aren't here to just. I mean, they're going to support you. They want to support you. That's what they do. It's just they love they have such a passion for it. But you can't just give them 20. Nothing. So really, we try to have some kind of $70 to $90 package deal.
So you
And
add stuff
and it's packed.
at those higher levels
At
that they can
$80, it's not. We never give just an RPG. Well, we try to avoid that. We try to
You'll
go
try to avoid that type of stuff
extra
now.
adventures,
Yeah.
maps, art. And what I try to do when we sit down and talk about a Kickstarter, and Jason and I talk about it, Dave's and I talk about it. If I'm buying this book as a gamer, what do I want? What do I want to enhance this RPG? Right. Laminated cards are great. Anything that can survive the test of time at a table is good. Cards, anything, anything that can bring, and these things don't mess up media shipping. And here's a trick on media shipping. Todd, close your ears, because he does not like it when we do this. I will take maps and I will fold them. We will do cards and we'll put them under the books in the media packaging. And technically, I don't think you're supposed to do that. Is this being filmed? Damn, son of a...
This is what we would do.
This is
if
what we
were
would
allowed
do.
to, but we don't.
I have
We're
heard
not
that
saying we do this.
I've heard that other companies
Some
do this.
people do.
Yeah.
But, so there's a ton of stuff that you can get in there and to get to the sweet spot that Davis is talking about. Because then you get you can get, 200 backers or whatever, and you've got 10,000, which pays for your print run, pays for your art, pays for your writing.
But you have to be very careful, especially if this is your first foray into this, because you don't have the extra funds unless you get the funding that you need.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah, right.
Right.
So
It's a whole
it's a
other
tricky thing.
animal.
And be
to
sure,
figure out
and
what
when
to
you
do.
offer someone like those higher pledge levels, we do mostly it's just more content, right? At this point, for a book, I know for like Bear
Generally, we'll do
Raglan's Work was
adventures.
almost all
Yeah,
content, right?
extra adventures.
Extra adventures and stuff like that. But it's something that your customers also want. Okay, your alpha gamers really want.
Yeah.
They don't want pencils. They don't want all that. And we tried that.
We've tried it all.
Hey, do you want the extra pencils for
Yeah.
$10? And like, oh yeah,
The
sure.
only thing we've ever seen, I
It
think the
doesn't
only
work.
thing we've ever seen that got people fired up with those beer mugs.
Yeah.
Beer mugs
Well,
that
and
were the backpack.
Backpack.
The backpack.
And that came back to the backpack did well.
And the
actually.
binder that we're about to do.
The binder did.
Bitter that I don't actually.
But that has utility at the table. That has utility
It
for the
does,
game.
yeah. It's not
Right,
just
right.
merchandise.
yeah.
Merchandise
Beer
is
mug's
great, but you don't have to do it inside the Kickstarter.
It provides another type
It
of
ain't even printed
utility.
up anyway. And then,
That was one of those things like.
So have some quality content backed up that you don't like initially necessarily intend to put into the book, but it's there for those who go to the higher pledge levels, you get this extra stuff. If like you're going to pledge $75, you're getting an extra module that no one else gets.
And make it
right?
exclusive.
Make it
Yeah.
exclusive,
Right.
and make it something that they really, really will want, because those guys will then come back to you in the future. Okay, but you have to, and this is why I love Kickstarter. You get immediate feedback.
Yeah.
Absolutely immediate feedback.
So that kind of wraps us up. We're a little over, but we're all over the internet. If you guys, we'd be more than happy to talk about any of it.
Yeah.
You know, just hop on.
Yeah, hit us up.
Forward.com, and that's got the email for everybody. And
We're on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, whatever. Just a lot of
MeWe, that's a new one.
We haven't got there yet.
Oh,
Well, I
yeah,
have
we
it.
do.
Are we on there? We're on
Well-
MeWe apparently. So.